one day I just thought, I need to honor that. I need to get some training. So I started with life coach training.
Nice.
Then I went and got my Reiki 1 and Reiki 2, and we'll be doing my master next year. And I did NLP training and EFT. And I want to integrate yoga therapy. So I'm in my yoga 200-hour training right now.
Awesome.
So
that is awesome. So yes, you are an evolved medicine woman. If you're right, and I salute you. I'm right there, right? Because you're just like what the universe is bringing to you. So I'm going to be recording. If you don't want to be on the recording, you want me to edit that out, just take your picture off.
No.
Okay.
I would be honored to be part of whatever's supposed to happen.
Oh, great. So yeah, so welcome into this conversation. So you know what, you're in, are you feeling it? Are you feeling like now's the time that it can, like whatever it is you've been building or called to, there actually is a space for it?
That's exactly, you hit it right on the head. And it just keeps coming up, like in my astrology and my cards and the people I meet, the people that are serendipitously will find, like how I found you. And I'm like, oh, she looks like someone who could help some of my clients, because I can't help everyone, or maybe even myself. I don't know. I just knew that I was drawn to the people we had in common. So, but definitely with the people I'm working with, they just keep coming out of the woodwork. And my tools that I have right now are perfect. I feel like I'm on the edge of something even bigger, and I don't understand what that bigger thing is. And I'm really excited to get there, but I'm just letting it happen, I guess.
Yeah. And that's exactly why I called into this community. Like, you know, like kind of, that's where I was in 2013. I got a real calling. I had a health and wellness center. I had evolved it back up because I had started one that was way too big for the chaos in my life. I was following that like masculinized kind of have to do things. Although I was preaching to women empowerment with my business, it was a pregnancy focused center. I mean, you can't get much more women than that, right? But I was still masculinized. Like I was trying to find that like leadership style, or more, I would say I was toying with the feminine leadership style, but still kind of felt like held in that more, male hustle, do this other, burn out my adrenals along the way and sort of not trust what you just said. Like, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because the feminine way is kind of instinctual, is intuitive, is sort of seeing the subtle people coming into your life that really don't make much logic sense sometimes, but it's the feeling and going with that gut feeling, and that's so what we need. The most powerful ones that are tuning into this for a couple of years already so need a community where that is supported, or at least conversation, even if it's like someone to text, like, am I crazy to think like, you know what I mean? Not it being a how-to, because there's pieces of it. And I'm sure you've been kind of dabbing into it. I've been dabbing into it, where you're getting this from that one. You're getting this, you get the soul warrior work from, like me personally, I'm getting soul warrior work from Danielle Laporte. I'm getting like, the mainstream work, kind of like, how do you bring this into mainstream, digital healthcare marketing. But it's like sometimes we don't have the time. I don't have the time to be running my business tools I need to, even if I delegate. And especially in the type of business, at least I'm trying to build, which is that connector community, I kind of like to be talking to some people. I could put some things on automation, and I do, but there's part of my brand, part of my work is finding you, connecting with you, that other leader. And it's through conversation.
That's exactly right. I agree. And from a standpoint of what I do, at least, I don't know fully what you do, but sometimes it's a lonely road. So sometimes it's nice to just say, hey, anybody out there? To kind of get some, I had, Mercury in retrograde did this or that. Someone actually knows what those words mean, and you're able to say it in a safe space, because a lot of my clients, they're not there. Right. They're at a point where I can help them, but I can't go into what they call the woo-woo stage.
Right.
And
woo-woo.
that in this past year and a half or so, I don't want to say I lost, but I sort of organically changed my whole friendship circle. And some have been lost in the fact that organically moved on because we no longer served each other's needs, which sometimes hurts.
It does. And you're correct. Exactly. And I think that the only way we do this, again, aligned with our style, what the energy is we're feeling, is you need that circle again. I mean, the power of circle, we know the research that shows health groups, you know, when peer-to-peer support, even though they don't have a degree on their wall, seems to get people motivated. That's where CrossFit came out of. That's where, you know, Weight Watchers came out of. That's where Facebook is thriving out of. And all of these, you know, mommy groups on the, you know, what do we think those forums are? They have changed policy when people get angry enough and supported enough to have that permission to listen to what they're hearing, their truth. And I think that if we are going to shift, you know, it's all tied in, but if you keep segmentalizing it, you don't understand, like, the government and the schools and, you know, healthcare and environmental protection. And it is a communal, societal, it's all together. And it really does need the people that realize. That's why I say, medicine woman, it's, you're in healthcare, but you realize health is about, you're online. Like, I shifted online because this actually gives me ability to speak to people who don't live in my community, who are not going to pay, you know, $1,000 to travel for, you know, an intensive week because they're just not there yet for whatever reason.
Yes.
And, you know, I hear you sort of molding and doing into the same thing. But like you said, it is a lonely thing because it gets a little scary since it's not as known and understood. It's hard to say, you know, these are my skills, I'm going to bring that to the market. Even if you want, you know, a side, this is your main thing, and your side thing is, let's say, to go into a corporation, or you see gaps, let's say, with other counselors or coaches or something who are not understanding that piece. It's hard to put that on a business card. Yes. It's hard to put that on a resume to even go work in corporate or mainstream while you build your thing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And yet, you know, so it's really hard to say, oh, what's that elevator speech? Because it's so big and it's so transformational, but you're using it with people one-on-one when you can get that audience, which is why I think one of the ways we need to sort of work together is kind of an idea of how network marketing works for people. But in these types of realms, you build, which is what I'm building, is a platform that those who want that support could share.
Yes.
I'm willing to donate virtual space and pay for that, whatever. And we form platforms and network and tiptoe, because it's really expensive to take on the burden of, you know, like I have Kajabi. That's an expensive platform. It's really expensive for some people venturing in and experimenting, have their overhead. Their partner thinks they're crazy. Their colleagues think they're crazy, you know. But hey, if you have a great idea and you're doing something and it's aligned with my audience, why not support you? Why not?
Yeah.
Right?
I come from a Chamber of Commerce background. That's all I ever did in my whole 15 years before I moved here. So I'm all for that. But they were in that time period, and we're never into this digital thing, because I'm so well versed in that with when I did that online marketing and the things like that. It's all about, this is just the way to go. And it's so easy for people anywhere to connect, and the energy is still there. But the average person who doesn't understand what we do doesn't think the energy is there. They think they have to meet face to face. It's not, you know. I'm like, no, you can have a cup of coffee with your friend. You can sit there.
Right. Here's my tea right here. This is what I want. I want to make this like a new norm for people, like to see it. I think a lot of women I end up mentoring, you know, and again, being called to it. So I went and closed my wellness center, got the calling that I needed to find the leaders that were all in their little utopias and somehow connect with them. I didn't know what the hell it was going to happen, but I really got that message, and things started falling through. I had gotten space. I was expanding, like my whole thing of what I thought I was supposed to do was not in that form. It was a different form. But that's the, like, in doing so, in literally turning into a global network behind the scenes, I was able to evolve. And this is, and it was me, like, you know, talking like this behind the scenes. I'm like, people need to see this, because the young ones coming through, or even the older ones that are suddenly waking up, you don't see it.
Yep.
You don't see this being like a series. Oh, that's just like a coffee clutch. Like, they're good. But to be all honest, you need to have women there who are not diverted into they're not enoughs. Like, you know, you need to have people who have walked the path a little bit.
Yes.
Because do you tend to find in this space of building a business and also trying to kind of accept, you know, your intuitive side and things like that, you kind of find where, like, there's victim little places, and you can't get forward, like, you, like, okay, we can all bitch about this all we want, but, like, what are we going to do? Like, what's the solution? Do you find that?
I totally do. Or I find people buffer it, so they stuff it because they feel like it's a betrayal, or that can't be right, like not listening to the intuition, like that can't be right, like they know it's right, but they're not, they're afraid.
Right. And then therefore, I think, like this, so then you don't, like, get the information out of that community that you would hope for. Like, I even found that on a really big, you know, like, everybody, because we all, again, we want connection, right? We want to find the people who are more agreeing with us. But I think women need to really understand, or especially the ones that need to rise at this point. I mean, I'm sitting here reading, I just put a Facebook post. I'm just so, the CDC gets a list of forbidden words: fetus, transgender, diversity.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all what we have been working on in our understanding of this continuum between the masculine and the feminine, and trying to bring in this business. That's like that network marketing idea. Like, when you go in as only one way,
right,
it's you at the top or whatever, it ruins it. It does become a pyramid scheme. It does. But if it goes in as the team leader, if you have a team leader who is mothering you and supporting you and helping you build people under you that you don't even understand what to do yet, and you're bringing in revenue already, and then you get confidence, and so she's connecting you like a mother does, right? Sacrificing a little bit of what she could gather and defeat you. It's a different mentality. It works in some ways, right? If I'm going out and I need something and I got to get it done fast, if I need to launch, I need to know that energy. Because that's the other extreme. I find some of the girl power lady boss sometimes is actually just it's just masculine in pink, or it's the opposite, where it's so feminized, like, you know, they're again just sitting and conversing and using those good energies, but in unproductive ways. Because they never launch. They never quite get past when you get in your comfort zone, because we're really good at staying in our comfort zones.
Oh no, you have to be outside of it all the time, as much as possible, in order to grow.
Definitely.
I love how you said that about the women. I used to say the women that are men's roles wear the pants. Like the CEO pant people.
Right. And like, people get so offended by that, but like, we're saying it like it is the truth. Like,
the truth.
It's I'm not saying like that, like you can't wear pants.
Right.
What I'm saying
just a metaphor.
Right, exactly. Like, but I mean, like, they get into like, well, I can do, and I think that's somewhat of what maybe we lost, because in that whole burning of the bra, you know, I always say this, in the whole burning of the bra of feminism and taking our place, what happened was we forgot bras are really helpful for us. Like, I don't want to walk around without a bra.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not empowerment. I've actually disabled my posture and given myself pain if I say I shouldn't have to wear a bra. Now, it's great where you don't order me to wear a bra.
Right.
I shouldn't have to, like, just, we have to kind of get that story straight. Just another thing, I think, you know, I don't know. I think in some terms, that 24-hour hustle, again, we work on cycles. Like, let's just admit it, ladies. Every 30 days for a big chunk of our lives at the building, like, there are powerhouses who after menopause wake up, build their empire. I think like Mary Kay was one of them, or somebody in the thing, like, woke up at 45, 46, 47 and just like built their empire. But the majority of women are sort of balancing it at a time. They're cycling. Like, we have to admit it. Like, we are different. But if we did, we'd have these physiological conversations where actually the first half of our cycle, we are really great for A, B, C, D, E. And the second half, we're naturally D, E, F, G, H. But we hide it. Like, literally, I had my daughter in 99, and I was still like, it was like, okay, the maternity wear was still kind of blousy. And it was like I was supposed to like pretend I wasn't pregnant while I was pregnant. Like, it was like, we're just going to make it like, it was just, and think of how psychologically robbing that is in terms of, right? Like, I was supposed to like pretend I wasn't having morning sickness, or I would get it again at evening sickness because I was doing my job. Like, that would be unprofessional. It's insane, right?
Yeah, it is.
It cuts to the fibers of the fabric of this web of support, because now we went and we kind of split the XX. We kind of split our sisterhood. And, we need to be together because, like you said, we need to be developing the practitioner of it, right? So it needs to be space where we can, again, if I don't have time, I don't know if you have Finding That Tribe. Do you love that girlfriend and that you just, like, I have this great girlfriend, Calvary, who, like, in an hour, we could be talking, like, we would have talked about, like, our partners, our business, like our blog or blog ideas, scientific discoveries, some yoga class we took 10 years ago. And you know what I mean? And then some marketing ideas we had.
Yes. It's circle talking.
Right. But it has to be that circle that can talk about all that. Like, I can't keep, one of my hopes with my Mind Body Brand Academy is to like make that circle one place for these type of these styled women that are seriously talking mind, body, soul, healing of not only themselves, but the work they do. And in that way, the community they're building. So what are your goals? What are you working on for 2018? What are you doing?
Well, my big thing for this year is webinars. I did a lot of face-to-face, and I love it. And I did workshops. But now this year, I want to throw my net out wider, and I want to do webinars. And the first one I want to do is called Non-Scale Victories. And I want it to be about mind tools for weight loss. So it has nothing to do with the scale and nothing to do with the diet. And I'm going to make that very clear, but I may, the very last webinar, have an MD nutritionist on, just as somebody they can go to. So, but not part of the big picture.
Right, because they need that validation, especially when and I find that, because that is definitely my brand, is definitely with Belly Guru. And then as I sort of switch to myself, I'm kind of like still trying to communicate, but I'm more trying to communicate. We just need a new style that we all blend together in. But it was bridging that. You have to still bridge the old. You can't be, I talk about this all the time with my yoga therapy professional friends. Like, you can't just be like preaching chakras and granola bars. It's too big of a gap. Like, it's too big of a gap for mainstream to support you. And for you to be able to utilize what's valid out there, which is more, you got to be talking neuroplasticity a little bit. You got to be, but, say it in the words, but you cannot be jumping. So I think that's an awesome idea. That is awesome. So how are people going to find you or whatever? Where do we?
It's all online. I mean, I have some, definitely I have a brand of people here who have already expressed interest, but I basically will use online marketing techniques that I use with my clients.
Yeah.
It's not in an annoying way. I hate it when someone's all over.
Are you going to do that like via like an email kind of thing, or what are you using, a platform?
Yeah, I'll use email. I'll use some platforms as well. Yeah, both. I have both.
It doesn't have to be complicated. I think a lot of people, again, until you're talking like this, they think that, right, you're being sold constantly. Like, you need to go get the Infusion Soft and the Webinar Go and the Zoom is like, you know, they sometimes now they're knowing about Zoom, but like a year ago, you know, I was telling some people, I'm like, Zoom, like, you know, because I'm like, you get free up to half hour if you know, because like that conversation, or MailChimp, you know, 2,000 people, you don't have to pay, and you know, you're not even at the point where you can utilize those extras.
Absolutely. I always tell my marketing clients or people that I work with, let's squeeze everything free first. And let me show you how. I have these great lists for them and exactly those limitations. And then when we're exhausted those, which no one really has, we can pay. You know, even with the Facebook ads, a lot of people really don't need them. There's different ways to get the message out there, you know, in different groups or through, you know, their friends can pass it, you know, their group of tribes can pass it on. And it's beautiful. It works really well. And besides, who's supposed to come to your seminar is a level of trust within your skills. So you can't stress about that either.
And that word to word, again, you know, people like, well, you know, word to word. I have survived, you know, 14 years with Belly Guru, word, you know, person to person, word to word, that relationship. And again, I go back to that, you know, the way that we vilified like kind of network marketing that built itself on that, but it was kind of smart because it was sales. I mean, that my husband works in sales with insurance and things like that, even with lacrosse teaching. This is all sales. And I know definitely, I'll say as a licensed healthcare provider, that's like a dirty word, but it's like relationship, like you've got to sell it now. There's a bunch of people that are thinking a bag of Doritos and you know, sitting in their, you know, their 5 beers after work because they deserved it, or their glass of wine if they're classy.
Oh, yeah, we're going to do it on wine too. And then I have one on, you know, money. The whole thing of tapping into your wealth and not being afraid of your money, and how to manifest more money through various things. So some of it is just the power of knowing and understanding in a non-threatening way, kind of similar to what you're building, because people tend to think they have limiting beliefs about making money, or they put a limit on their
so true.
They put a limit on what they can do. Well, I'm only going to look for 10 people. Why did you put a limit on that? What's the deal? What if you get 20 people?
Right.
You know, I had someone at my last seminar who I actually hired to teach part of the yoga because I'm not certified yet. And she said, is anyone ever going to attend that workshop? I said, excuse me? I said, yes, there'll be 6 to 10 people minimum. I had 18. I said, you don't put limits on things like that. So I invited her to attend at no charge. I said, why don't you come and take away your limits and see and open up her eyes to the possibilities. Yeah. So many people are beating themselves up all the time with what they can't do instead of what they can do.
And you bring up another very strong, right? We don't even understand how, again, we're not claiming that feminine. That's a very feminine, right? You're talking about trust, and you invited her.
Yes.
You're inviting her to see. It's not about like, oh, well, you know, well, the hell with you. Like, I'm going to show you, you know,
right.
Like, without, you're going to show her by actually reflecting it.
Yes.
And then what you just said was, I'm going to show, and like you're teaching her. So that's another like trait of like the medicine woman is she doesn't just profess so that people pat her on the back. In fact, a lot of times we're not getting the pats on the back. We want, you know, to make sure, like you said, like it's good to know you're not like, you again, you have to go down your own dark a little bit and realize it, because you have got to understand when it's other people's crap.
It's her journey. And the night before the event, you know, and I said to her, you know what, don't worry. If nobody signs up for my event, I'm still going to pay you. So I didn't know if I was trying to take away her worst fear. I couldn't figure out what it was. So don't worry. Right. I'd love you to attend as my guest. And then at the last minute, one of my old marketing clients paid for 4 teenagers to come that were between 16 and 18 and said, hey, let's start with these kids younger. Let's get them in here. So when this woman who had these limiting beliefs came, she was blown away. If it just changed her just a tiny bit, I'm so happy. And we did. She did.
That's somebody else sort of helping you out. You see how this, so now I'm hearing abundance, yet another thing that comes from that energy, right? So like someone you had a relationship with, you assisted or whatever, remembers that feeling, comes back, supports you without you even asking.
Never asked, never even thought of it.
Blesses you with trying to prove a point. And this is that idea of manifestation and abundance. This is that idea of flow, which you know, unless you're talking to enough people where it's working in their life, it seems like such an impossible thing because we've been convinced that the hustle's got to be hard and morning, noon, and night. And you wake up and you got to jump out of bed and you got to, and you know what? If you plan it right and play the long game and have patience, and I mean, you need to make money. So you have to get creative in your revenue streams until that base is, but then once you build that base, like I said, I am helping people who I helped birth their 12-year-old kid right now. And they're, you know, talking to me about, is there an essential oil for their pubescent, stressed out teen? Because they've been on that journey on my newsletter. Have they all been paying me constantly the whole entire 12, 14 years? No. But if I, you know, and I did a really daring thing, and I challenge anyone who listens to this to sort of do it. I put on my thing on my Facebook, I said, I'm going to be bold, I'm going to be brave. What, you know, what words come to mind or memories come to mind when my name comes up? And that was to, you know, to see if what it is that I'm being, is that what I'm authentically bringing to the place. So, I don't know how much time you have or when you were going to kind of, you know, chit chat. So feel free if you got to go or whatnot. I think some people.
I just plan to sit and listen and talk. And so whatever.
Are you getting benefit from this conversation?
Oh, absolutely.
Whatever it is you came for.
I was just thinking how fun it is and how interesting it is to serendipitously just like what cyber me to and then get invited to your webinar and then we're having this conversation and then never put it together the way you said it. It just in my head, I knew it was all working because I'm so comfortable. Every 6 weeks, I always work with someone who needs my help and I don't charge them. But I do know my self-worth. Everyone else to charge, and I'm able to do that because I feel worthy, you know, as far as I have to make a paycheck. But at the same time, I want to pay it forward, and I want to help someone without the dollar sign in there because, and these people that happen to come into my life, they're the ones that do the homework. They're the ones that really want to roll up their sleeves. They're not taking it because it's free. I just get that sense, that intuition as a, you know, as a fellow woman, you kind of know when someone,
I had put, that is so true because I said, where did I put it? I had done an Instagram post on like just exactly what you're saying on, can't remember exactly, but I basically said like, go out and be okay making money because then you can help more people. You have the choice. If I'm not bringing in enough revenue, if I'm feeling bad, I just had this conversation on physical therapy, women's health, cash-based physical therapy. So they're physical therapists that are looking to, a lot of them help other women specifically, going out on cash because again, you know, the way they want to work around their schedule, they want to be more boutique-y, but they also want to make more bang for the buck because insurances are just not caring that they get, you know, a fair salary. But on top of that, they're not allowing them to get paid for things they know. As you evolve and you realize women are complex and, you know, you can't just like, you know, we work with pelvic health and things like that. I can't just like day one work with somebody who's been raped and be like, pull down your pants. We're going to go do an internal.
Oh my gosh.
Right? But I can't get paid in mainstream healthcare. Like they don't get it. Like insurance will be like, you didn't do an or I have to do a half-ass evaluation. Like I got to say, you know, so, and then do it another day, but not charge for it. It's just, it's ridiculous. Yeah. But one of the comments was, I have somebody coming in, she may actually listen to this. I thought she was going to be on, but, you know, I have somebody who's been with me a while when I wasn't doing my own business and she can't, basically the woman didn't want to pay or she wants insurance to pay, but that's not what this woman's selling anymore. And she's like, any tips on like how to make this work for her? And I said a payment plan.
Yeah.
Because if I don't make money, I can't pay the lights. Yeah. I can't have the center. I can't hold the space for that free workshop or I can't pay the platform or the website to have that downloadable $5 thing or something that they can enter in. And the truth of the matter is it's okay to make what you're worth.
Yeah,
they can go to mainstream healthcare and not get what you're giving.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I had that recently with someone who really wanted to do like the biggest package I have, which is a whole year long. And she said, I don't have the money to pay it up front. And I said, well, tell me what you can do. She said, a payment plan. I said, why didn't you propose what you're comfortable with? I gave all the power to her. She put it back. It was even better than I would have because I felt bad, like, oh, I should do this and that. But no, she's following it. And it's she feels good. I feel good. And it's,
Christina, that was so smart to turn the power over to her. Because again, see, your client. So that's another thing. In order to do anything we were talking about,
yes.
You need to know enough about where your genius is. Like, we're not even talking about expertise. In fact, I know that I'm talking to the women who have been kind of stuck in their expertise. What works, and it gets easy, and it's like a pig stuck in mud, like it's just comfortable. At least I know the mud. But when you're deciding to jump to that next fishbowl, that bigger fishbowl, and be the small fish again in this unknown thing, you need to know who you're talking to, because it will be less people than the other. You know what I mean? Like if you're being transformative, if you're being revolutionary, if you're being forward thinking, if you feel your mission here is to catalyze, is to, nurture something that you're not seeing and you're leaving, you need to know who you're talking to, because they're trying to discover that too. And just like you didn't quite know what the hell was going to happen if you connected with me today, but you knew enough because I was talking to something deeper.
Yes.
Than what it was I did and you did or thing. If you could give a couple of what made it connect with you, or what a little bit maybe summary of like your journey? Was it hard for you to, and I know we're still evolving, so it's not like and that's another thing. Being the expert doesn't mean that you are the almighty. you're at the end of the path. But in your journey, like you said, over the past year and a half or so, how did you hear your voice? Because I don't think there's enough women who they're hearing, like, it's hard to have a voice and have that voice in what you're selling, making your website. You take all these freaking classes that say, ideal customer, your value potential, and all of this, or talking to people. But it's hard to have a voice if you don't even hear the one that's, that is yours. It's not the belief system from whatever, or your fear. That fear's a big one, right? That we're listening to all the time. Any tips?
I think the biggest way I listen to my voice, of course, everyone's intuitive, but there's so many things in our way that we don't believe our intuition anymore. So I had a little bit of that talking to me. But what I started to do without anybody's suggestion is I would do these thought downloads where I would just take a notebook and I would just, without like anyone's ever going to read it, write every single thing that was going on when my mind got so heavy, and I would have all these ideas, but I was scared. I was afraid. What if I don't make money? All the things that I help other people with, I had the same issues, and I still get them, but I'm able to snap out of them faster. So I did thought downloads and kind of looked for patterns to kind of see what was going on. What is my mind thinking? Because I have to tame my mind. My mind is very unsupervised. Everyone's is. So if I don't know what my mind is thinking, I'm letting my mind go in a different direction than what my intuition wants me to. So I kept seeing the patterns when I would do these thought downloads in my notebook. Nobody ever read them. They were just for me. Sometimes they were sentences. Sometimes I would cry and the paper would get blurry. When I would go back at a safe time when I felt like I could look at it, and I would start kind of highlighting my commonalities, and then kind of went from there. So that's how I listen to it. Everyone has this ability. It takes 5-10 minutes, as long as it's a safe notebook. A lot of people worry about someone reading it, or a lot of people think, well, I can't write. You don't have to write. It's just a download.
Right. You're not going to put it out on the bestseller list of whatever. Maybe not in that form, but it might become blogs, and it might become.
It can turn into many things, and
workshops and a new profession. And I think that's what, again, not fostering at the seeds, at the seeds of you developing your story. because, well, you have your story that you've lived,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have the filters that you're
Yeah.
working through. And then when you're trying to make that story and connect, so, you know, what is it I'm willing to have up front? What is it I'm just discovering with myself? If nobody explains to you that process, that blueprint,
Yes.
or having that as part of the blueprint, you know, people don't realize blueprints are not, you know, again, everybody wants that system, right? And I think, again, it's that academia minded linear path to
Mm-hmm.
success. It's this, do this, do this, do this, do this. If you just do, you become a robot.
Yep.
And this work that we're talking about is asking you not to be a robot, to see beyond, you know, other people's robotics, and then flip it. And again, it's like, you need to see those, unless you're told it's okay to be crying while you're doing your journal thing. You know what I mean? Like, big girls, tough girls don't cry. You know, it's like the same crap we're saying to our sons. Like, tell your freaking sons to do this, right? Like, tell your brothers, tell your partners, you know, like, but until we see that, but it's not uncontrolled. Like you said, I need to control. I need to have a safe space where I act that way. I go through, you know, my inner child gets her talk.
Yeah.
And then I need to go back and then take that emotional intelligence and communicate it.
Yes.
And when you're off on some tangent of emotion, you're not communicating very well.
Right.
That's where we need to work with our feminine. And that's what we're scared of, I understand. We're scared of that. But it's been, again, vilified because we weren't using our tools. Again, that takes the masculine discipline of hunt and gather and linear. We need to pull that too.
Mm-hmm. We have to. It has to be a balance, honestly. Absolutely, because we all have both tendencies. But yes, you know, that's where the things that are linear, like what you do, you're of your PhD, you have those things that you can pull in. I don't. So I like to pull in experts, like I did the yoga, the MD, the nutritionist. And that's why a tribe of a community is really important. So every time I see somebody online that looks interesting to me, if they're local or not local, I look around, I reach out. I believe even if they do the exact same thing as me, they can't possibly be me.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. That's another thing. Like, we get scared of, and that's, you know, that's the men I talk to and the women both across the board. But I think with women, the one thing I say, we really got burned with that mean girl period. And it doesn't graduate from middle school and high school either. Some people get really stuck in that persona because it becomes their power, because they're utilizing that power of connecting and reading and emotional intelligence and intuition to strike like a hunter in a very, again, dominating way, instead of saying, I see myself in you. Because we don't, again, society hasn't made that our superpower of vulnerability a superpower, right? Because it's made it like it's a weakness. And that's not a weakness. You know, why has anybody ever told their big boy not to cry?
Yeah.
Right? And then let their girl have her hissy fit for a while, and she's just being a princess. You know, some people want to be a princess. In fact, Disney's made billions of dollars teaching a bunch of women to just be a princess. So it's a mixed message from very, very young. But what I hear, you know, again, that blue ocean theory, I don't know if you're familiar with blue ocean theory. It was presented to me back in, oh gosh, when things weren't working out with my first version of Belly Guru, and I had to kind of close down and remodel it because I was 1,400 square feet, 5 employees, and 2 little kids under 7 in. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. And it's the idea, or it's the concept of there's no one who's your competition because no one's you, which I heard you say. Like, we have to have that. It's not confidence. Like, I'm finding that, you know, like some people, it's confidence at the level when we're going to a certain level, but not when you're jumping from your bowl of expertise to genius. You were confidence. That's the only way you got there. You were already confident. It's more like conviction or permission or something. It's something like that, to be like, I say that's a sense of owning your feminine divine. Like, you're that divine. Like, you are that special. That's right. It's not being conceited.
Right.
It's realizing that you've got something special that keeps calling you.
Yes. There's no way anybody can be me and my energy, what I bring to the table, what people want to tell me. It's not the same as you. There's no way. It's impossible.
Right.
From a website standpoint, we can look the same, but from a talking to you like this or in person, there's no way. It's impossible.
Exactly.
So
And that's why sometimes I think maybe we don't do enough of these. Again, what if we get together and actually have a live event where there's different variations or different processes of getting to the same point?
I think that's a fantastic idea, because that's how we all evolved to figure out which one best. Like, I'm a thought coach. That's my favorite thing. But I didn't know that until I studied with another thought coach. That thought coach works online too, but there is plenty of business for us to even talk to each other, to help each other, because we're two different people. But we have the same theory, but just two different ways of going about it. And people attract to me versus attract to her, And there's more than just one person, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of insane. It's like thinking like, and again, I think we went off that tangent naturally. Like if you look at the elephant, right? All the elephant females, they gather all the kids together and they walk in the field, they're walking through the desert, and they have, they made this natural thing. We did it. We did it in the villages. Look at villages and tribes that still we kind of like work together and are like, hey, Christina, you are awesome at such and such. Do you think you can handle that? And I'll go do your laundry and go like gather the things that, your man and the other men brought together, like that kind of tribal wisdom, or mothers and sisters and daughters and being around each other was just kind of how it worked. And, we kind of lost that, again, competition, like who's the best mom, right? So there's the stay-at-home moms, and then the working moms.
Anyway. Huh? Who gets to decide that anyway?
Right. Like, and then there's the women who didn't, how could you be 40 and decided you didn't have kids? Yeah. Or if it was taken away from you, how could you feel whole? Or, like it's ridiculous. So we have all these segments, and I don't see that as much with the men, except more recently where people are like, it's funny because there's like millennials, I just find it's like a whole generation just sort of birthed. Mm-hmm. So that they have community of like wanting to wear the baby carriers, and whatever. Like it's so much easier than having these little like 15 pockets trying to figure it out. But I have found in the past 5 years or so where this mompreneur idea, or this, this sort of merging of things, or like allowing that woman to, I guess, choose her destiny, but in a real, without her sisters putting her down, like more acceptance of the fact that some people are just deciding that they're going to birth careers and businesses and $1 million companies instead of kids. And they're going to take that money to open up a school in Uganda and help a whole bunch more kids. Like, do you find like, I don't know, I think there's like a taste. Again, I think we need to be out there showing it, what we're doing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not widespread, but there definitely is I hear little things here and there. Even women who don't even get married and go and adopt 5 kids from Kenya, and
right, like exactly. Like my mom's generation would be like, "Are you like they stayed in marriages so they wouldn't have to do that?" Right?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Okay, so so let's recap. So some of the things I think that feminine business style was definitely getting out there and playing for the long game.
Yep.
So it's about going and like making community. And you know what's awesome about that? You don't need to have your own business to go start making community.
You don't. In fact, it's a good place to start if you don't want to do a thought dialogue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hello, smart.
Yep, be inspired, be in a safe space, so you're not on this lone track like maybe I was. I don't know if you were, but yes, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, because you just, again, I didn't see it. In fact, until I started being, at some point, some people just had to be out there, and then people get attracted to you. So that's the second thing, be abundant minded, because once you overcome your crap and really see who you are and get that conviction, and you're going to need mentors. You're going to need mentors who see your potential before you to help you, guide you through. You can't just have people who pat you on the back and pump you up. You can't just have hype.
No, yeah, what about the accountability? You know how important that accountability piece is? When I say it to you and then I see you online and you say, how's that going? How are you doing on that? And I'll be like, oh, crap, didn't get out loud. Or, I have this community and I'm interested and everyone's going to rally around you and kind of, oh, I know someone who can help you with that part, this part, that part, and we're going to follow up with you.
Right.
That accountability is a huge
and be witnessed making a mistake. Like that's another thing that, like, again, get out of it. So unless you have support for those moments in that safe space, like you described, it's really hard. It's really, and people are doing it, but you're wasting. My point is, you can do this a different way. You can keep doing it the way. You can keep joining the boys' clubs all you want, and they're accepting you, but you're making it so much harder.
Yes.
And I'm not even saying like there's conscious men in my Guru Goddess tribe, but they're few and far between because you got to really know yourself as a man. And they're young. They're the millennials in that group. I have one or two that are around my age, but most of them are the youngers. They get it.
But a lot of the older guys want it, but they're afraid. And they're afraid because they weren't supposed to. That isn't, I don't know. I had a period of time last year where I was attracting a lot of older male clients, like 55 plus, and they just needed to cry. They needed to say that they needed someone to support them, and they're still happily married. It's nothing like that, but their wives don't want to hear about it. They just want to know that their future is stable. But they needed a platform in which to confess, have people around them and tell them it's normal. They don't go out for beers on their own anymore.
Yeah, that's that. Right. Again, we sort of have stripped with all our busyness, right?
Yep.
So again, the disadvantage of that hustle is you've lost track of that softer kind of, again, I'm doing nothing then, that productivity. I was buying into that. Like I literally had to sit there sometimes and be like, I have this good friend, Danny, and he kind of he always went through sort of on that, like, it just kind of flowed into what, ended up needed. And I would be like, what would Danny do? What would Danny do? And it's just so funny that it was a guy because I knew no women. I was in the group of, smarty pants, type A's, pusher women that, were achieving a lot and doing a lot. And I didn't have any of those. And then the other half of me was this split personality where I was hanging around, talking about the same things every day in the cul-de-sac, trying to build the back, And I was like, we're doing nothing productive right now except feeding into our own shit. Like, stop, get out of the victim mentality. So playing for the long game, being your personal best with the, just there's nobody quite like you. I call it waving your unicorn.
Oh, that's funny. I like that.
And then deciding who you are. I think also too, a lot of us trying to do this thing again, who are we? It's not even a woman, man, masculine, feminine, expert, not expert. It's more of like, once we do know and we have that level of expertise, how do we want to jump higher? Are we going to bring ourselves to a brand or to a conversation as like the role model or the expert? Or somebody like that just gets people connected and researches and does all the work for people and then like, kind of the catalyst kind of things. And I attribute that sort of, I see things as that like being the matriarch, the matriarch has all the, or maybe the idea of has that wisdom, right? The kind of thing. Then the mother is more of like, I'm going to like be the research guy. Like I'm going to do all that, to make it easier and mother and love on you. And then that maiden fire is like, being that sort of like role model, be like me, those kind of flip or whatever. But I think
they do.
Our life where it's like easier to be one of those things and maybe honoring that. Again, if you're always being like, I'm not going to honor that I have, I'm at a point in my life that I'm going through menopause or I'm at a point in my life that, I got a divorce, or you almost don't tap into that wisdom. Don't you think? Like you don't tap into like what your expertise is. Like my expertise years ago was probably, again, as the belly guru, which was my first brand, was kind of being that mother and role model. I think I'm breaking up a little bit. I don't know if you could you still hear me?
Yeah, a little
Okay.
bit, but that's okay.
That mother and role. But then as I got my expertise level, I suddenly found myself talking as that wise matriarch kind of. But if I didn't honor that, if I didn't see where I was, maybe I feel like not enough, or I keep getting letters and taking courses to be that other thing. And then it doesn't work anymore because that's not me.
Right. Well, it's like you said in the beginning, it's cyclical. It depends what's going on through your, your different stages, not only, physically, emotionally, but, astrologically as well.
Mm. Yeah. And then that you'd have to appreciate, again, nature, and you're tied to it.
Mm-hmm.
I often wonder why women are so refusing to realize if you're healthy, like you start cycling like the moon, either on a full moon or a full moon or a new moon. It's because that's just the way it worked back in the day. I mean, again, you're supposed to be sleeping on that too. When the moon comes out, you're supposed to go to bed, right?
That's so true. That's a good way to put it. I have it that way.
And when you start studying women's physiology, one of the reasons, like this is in our physiology, like our adrenals reboot, about 2 hours after, about from like 11 to 2 or so, is this time where we really should be in bed and sleeping an hour or so before we enter into that. So like 10 p.m. is kind of like cyclically where we can recharge our adrenals. If you keep burning them out, by the time you get to menopause, you have problems because your backup to your estrogen of your ovaries is your adrenals. If you ain't got nothing there, you suffer. So it's kind of like you have to honor that. And I'm hoping that maybe people like us can help the younger ones in that maiden fire. I mean, we all did it, right? Our 20s, just kind of go push it and I find that to be our most masculine, closest fire. I don't know if you follow, I'm in the yoga world, right? You're in the yoga, that Kali fire, that kind of, it's beneficial. We should learn from her, but we shouldn't keep doing her through our 30s and our 40s and our 50s as our main diva. It doesn't, it's not with our health.
Mm-hmm.
Men don't have that problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, that's so
their
true.
biggest problem is when they start losing their erection around whatever, right? I mean, not that they don't have problems, but I mean, they don't see the effects of that stress.
Yeah.
We see it readily. We see it. And then when we have things happen to us, traumas and things like that just happen in our lives, we lose people and have to be caregivers. A lot of us too, right? We're in between no matter how much we want equality, we're still sort of the one looked at, right? Between our parents and and the next generation, the bridge builders.
It's so true.
So honoring that, the rise of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess, I was hoping some more people would be on, but I think that you gave us some awesome nuggets. I do thank you.
Well, I think I look at it as they're going to watch it later when they have time. Don't you think?
Exactly. I mean, they just, again, right? Because we know like everything happens the way it's supposed to happen.
It's supposed to happen the way it's supposed to happen.
And that's trusting that. Like me and you, anybody listening to this who thinks that, I don't know, I can't trust this or whatever. I always say, look, when you were younger, wasn't there a time you were sort of like fantasizing this like life or this thing? And didn't some of that come to fruition? Like maybe you didn't know exactly what it was going to look, but for the most part, if you were somebody who wanted to have a family, you kind of created it. If you were somebody who wasn't going to do that, you kind of created that. Like if you had hangups and were fearful, your parents got divorced, you hated all men, you hated your father, you kind of relived that. Like you made that. It wasn't the world keep presenting it to you.
Yes. And I think you have to be careful when you say that too to people, that they can't manifest $1 million, or I'm going to manifest a female, power company. You have to put it out there, and what's supposed to happen happens at the level that it's supposed to happen at the time it builds. Like today, you put this wonderful, this webinar on for us today. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. Just because we're just here today talking doesn't mean it's going to impact lots of people and in different ways. And not even just tomorrow or Monday, or maybe in 6 months from now, someone's going to pull it out and it's going to make a big difference. But it's not going to be the way that you had imagined, because that's not the way they imagined. So you have to kind of just let that be.
So true, Christina.
Yeah, it's just such a cool thing.
Thank you for that. Because I love it. I love that. And I guess, I don't know, is that being the optimist? I guess, but it's also, you see it so much that it's just reality for you.
It's reality to me. It becomes reality. It honestly does. And that's why putting together this kind of tribe where we can all say, you know what? No, that's reality. That's because I know what you're saying. People say, oh, you're always so optimistic. No, I'm real.
Right. And it's like, how can we, and unless we sort of show it,
yeah,
like, I'm like really happy. Like, I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like, is my life perfect? No. Like, me and my husband were good. 2016 was my big year for a lot of layers coming off and a lot of crap. 2015 and 16, really. 2017 was is my husband, and probably going into 2018. And then we have a relationship. It's not perfect. I've done a lot of, but that's my point. I've been able to remain, in my authenticity, in the roles I want to play, in this vision, in this path. It's taken a tangent. That's exactly what I'm talking about, the curvy or hustle. We have to understand. Maybe it looks like I'm off and smelling the roses for a while. I think a lot of 2015 looked like I was doing that, moving from one brand to another, but I was working it and being able to, God, just trust it. But unless I see it, could it have helped me to know you, Christina, 2 years ago? Sure as hell could have. But it just, it just didn't happen. But like, I'm so excited I know you now. Absolutely. Because obviously I'm at a place where I can receive what you're doing. I might have been blind to it. That's a thing we don't understand. So many layers of that ignorance. I mean, just think of yourself in your 20s, like when you're 21, right?
You have to meet people where they're at. And that's a constant thing, as you know, in all the businesses that you've had, and in your current role, you have to look for their clues, and you have to meet them where they're at. Your gut intuition, your knowledge and experience might know something else. But if you tell them, then you're like a therapist. You're telling them what to do. You're talking at them. You're not letting them live their truth.
Yeah, and that's probably like really hard for a lot of women. I help a lot of women's health physical therapists. You can't get more feminine than that. Like, you're a caregiver, you're a therapist, you're a women's health therapist, and then if you're a mother on top of that, forget it, or a wife, or you forget it. So we're talking about, at the root of, this is a coaching conversation between ourselves. And so, like, that's what's going to develop the practitioner. That's what's going to develop the practice you're trying to build, and then that's going to develop the business. Because I think a lot of people don't realize your practice, or whatever your work, your office isn't actually the business. The business, because you can have that be a really expensive hobby. And sure. Right? And I think a lot of us get kind of stuck because it gives us something, or we hit that fear. And a lot of that fear can be quieted by having these conversations with women that understand the big picture, and conscious men who want to learn and identify that and are feeling it too. So they can teach us. I mean, my hope is to have some of the open chats, have some of those men. I think we need a closed space, and I want that community in the mastermind and the membership to be just women. But I think there's the room in these open conversations to like, I have 3 men and a fourth that's kind of a bonus conversation because he's popular with some of my target market. But all the rest are CEO females, because like, you can't just keep learning from people you don't see yourself in the mirror from. And you can't just, so you've got to see both, because in the end, it's your reputation. your visibility and your relationship with the audience. And that it's hard to be fake. I mean, it's hard to be fake long when you don't have a lot of energy and a lot of time.
Yes.
Right? I think that's
Absolutely.
a really big thing women have to be careful of. Like, we all know how to, right? Where we just smile and, you know, like just whatever, right? Be like a perfect, and it's like that Stepford wife thing, like that, just like be perfect. That, I don't know, like down south versus being in the north, it's much more the pageants. Like when I came down here and I saw how many women put their daughter in the pageants and think, I was surprised because it just wouldn't fly in New York. Like, you know what I mean? Like that was, it was such a different mentality. And it's not right or wrong. Like that's your mentality, but just understand it. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, just understand it. Like that being pretty and smiling and being this like kind of object, it's really hard to break out of that mentality when that's the mentality, you know, like it's just, you got to be conscious.
Yes, definitely.
And have other people. Cause if she wakes up, the pageant girl grows up and suddenly decides she doesn't want to be the pageant girl, she needs to know what community to go to. Cause she will be ostracized from the ones that, right? Like, you got to just know you will not be liked by everyone.
Right, exactly. That's hard. It's hard.
I don't know, but thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you. This was great.
You know, I think we gave people enough time. I don't want to. I feel bad in case somebody jumps on the last 15 minutes, but I think it's done. I mean, we've talked a lot. This is big stuff. Like, it's a lot to process.
So big, it's out there, and it's something I can talk about all the time, and I know you can too. And it always goes a different angle.
It is, but I would love to. And again, here's the example, people. Here's exactly what happens out of this. I would love to have a similar conversation, but for my podcast, Owning Her Health, because you are definitely one of those goddesses to feature in flipping your pain. You know, having your story, owning it, flipping the pain, and now you're making a, you know, you're taking this passion project and you're going to make a profit off of it. And that's awesome. And it's a big service to the world. So I will definitely email me, lisa@bellyguru.com on connecting email wise on that. Okay. And for the new year, we'll let you teach everyone who just listens to the podcast and has nothing to do with this work right now, right here.
Absolutely.
All right.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time and opportunity and widening my horizons. And I'm so excited for all those people out there watching it later to see where it takes them.
Yeah, definitely. And so just because, like, again, we'll probably have this in, you know, in our communities or whatever, but is there a particular, what are you on Instagram and Facebook or whatever, if anybody wants to like literally connect with you? Because one of my purposes with my Mind Body Brand Academy is for the women on the rise to find a mentor, to find a big sister, and become a big sister. Like, that's how I think we're going to make it work. It's kind of the sorority mentality, but not in the, you know, the dogma of it. I'm building a sorority. This is the sorority. I don't know what the name of it is. It's MBBA. That's our letters on our chest.
Love it.
But that's what I want. So where can they best find you?
If you're interested, you can go to my website, veritynu.com. Verity is VERITY and you.com. That means one. It's the same on Instagram, and you can connect with me personally on Facebook. I don't use Facebook for business for this particular entity because I want to have everyone have a good connection.
Nice.
You can just connect with me personally, and you can see what my life's like. And
you can't delegate that part, right? Like, that's not going to be one of those things you delegate. I mean, you could.
I could, but
you can have your VA do that, but in your particular work.
Yes.
And that's the point. You need to be okay to, like, would Marketing 101 course tell you to do that? No. But you're going to have to now also honor that you have limited boundaries, you know, limited whatever, and energy, and you're going to have to find a way to delegate something else because you found what you're good at and what works in your thing. I love that. I love that. But thank you, because that's it. I want people to find, I don't know. I'm that person. I like to bridge build or whatever. So if I'm not your mentor, and she sounds like she is, please find her, because we need you. We need you. Like, get your shit
That's why
together.
I contacted you.
Right.
That sounds
All right.
wonderful.
Awesome. All right, Christina, have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Good. You too.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.